What literary lineage led to the hardboiled detective's rise? Imagine a world where crime stories are gritty, fast-paced, and full of tough characters. That's what the rise of the hardboiled detective was all about. It didn't happen overnight. It grew from a mix of earlier detective stories and the changing society of the early 20th century. Back in the late 1800s, Edgar Allan Poe created the first detective stories. His tales focused on clever detectives solving puzzles with sharp thinking. But these stories were often more about brains than brawn. As time went on, American writers started to change the game. They wanted stories that felt more real, more raw. After World War I, cities grew bigger and more chaotic. People became disillusioned with the idea of perfect justice. They wanted stories that showed the darker side of urban life. This is where the hardboiled style really took shape. Writers like Carol John Daly began creating stories with tough, street-smart heroes. But it was Dashiell Hammett who really made the genre popular. He was a former Pinkerton detective, so he knew the streets well. His stories featured characters who relied on instinct, toughness, and moral ambiguity. Unlike the clean-cut detectives of the past, Hammett's characters were flawed and complex. His stories were fast, filled with real dialogue, and often showed crime as messy and violent. Raymond Chandler took it further with his detective Philip Marlowe. Chandler's hero had a personal code but was weary of the corruption around him. Other writers like Mickey Spillane and Robert Parker added their own twists, making the tough detective a staple in urban crime stories. The Pulp magazines, especially Black Mask, helped spread this style. These magazines loved stories filled with slang, violence, and sex, matching the gritty tone of the genre. This literary style also influenced movies. The film noir genre of the 1940s and 50s borrowed heavily from the hardboiled detective's traits. Films like The Maltese Falcon and The Big Sleep adapted stories from Hammett and Chandler, turning these tough characters into cinematic icons. Over time, the genre kept evolving, reflecting social changes and expanding beyond the original archetype. So, the rise of the hardboiled detective came from a mix of earlier detective stories, American urban life, pulp fiction culture, and a desire for more realistic, gritty crime tales. It's a story of how literature and society shaped each other to create one of the most iconic figures in crime fiction.